Here to wrap up this Saturday, we say hello to CBS golf analyst Rick Gehman. Rick, interesting happening certainly at the Renaissance Club, and I want to go first here on Rory McIlroy. The round is in the clubhouse. We can talk about it freely. A 66, 4 under par. Felt like a couple left on the bone as well. What do you make of the day for McIlroy?
That's what Rory McIlroy does. There's always a couple left on the bone. It's always the worst round he could have shot because of how talented he is. And Joe, I think we need to zoom out just a little bit because the conversation a lot this year has been around Rory McIlroy's driver in a negative sense. We should probably be having a conversation around Rory McIlroy's putter in a positive sense because this dude is rolling the rock this week, and it's starting to become more of the norm than just some outlier great putting weeks. The big difference in round number 3 is the way he hit these second shots. His approach numbers were off the charts. He was just about field average in the first 2 rounds, and then in the 3rd round he picks up nearly 2 shots to the field. That's a very dangerous combination now when we put the whole package together. Rory McIlroy's putting well, he's hitting his second shots well, and he's always one of the best drivers on planet Earth. That's how you get to a 66, Joe, with a couple left out there.
Yeah, we'll be in that final grouping and has a chance to collect his 2nd Scottish Open title in 3 seasons. Would be his 4th win of this season. He talked about putting the clubs down for 10 days. We'll examine how important that was coming up here in HQ post round. But with McIlroy being our best data point at 4 under par alongside 2 others, how did you see scoring at large develop here on day 3?
Much more difficult than we've seen. You know, the scoring average was more than a half stroke over par. This golf course has played closer to even par or just under in the first 2 rounds. So the wind kicking up, we're seeing how firm and fast this golf course has been all week long. And then the final stretch there, which I thought was interesting, Joe, is, you know, number 18 all day long played about right on 4.0, right to its par, but a lot of the guys in the final groups really struggled, and that's playing back into the sun. It's playing back into the firm and fast conditions that you're getting as the day goes on. That really ended up being a vital hole, especially through the final handful of groups coming down 18.
It certainly was, and we'll see what Sunday has in store for these players as the wind did flip and present a little bit different test. We remember Rory hitting, what was it, 3-iron 2 years ago into the 18th. Had a little flip wedge on this Saturday. We'll see what Sunday looks like for McIlroy and others. I do want to examine one of the 2 that he'll be sharing that final grouping with here. Gotterup now in the house, making par at the last, 11 under par, tied atop the leaderboard. He's coming off a course record, and sometimes we get that adrenaline dump. Guys just without anything left in the tank. What did he show you here on Saturday in the follow-up effort, and what could that mean for Sunday?
Well, Gotterup's been playing the best golf of his life over the course of the last couple of months, but this is a completely different animal. This is the Scottish Open, leading after 2 rounds, having Scottie and Rory and Xander and everybody else in the world try to chase you down, and I thought he performed admirably. You know, this is a round that got off to a little bit of a rocky start. The bogey on 2, he doesn't take advantage of the par 5 third, excuse me, with his length, but he's able to make both of those shots up immediately, and then he just kind of hung in there. Like I said, this golf course played over par, and even par 70 is a great round. Now it's going to be a whole new set of feelings, Joe, for Gotterup over the course of the final 18 holes.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like it's going to be a sprint, rather stay upright for these final holes at the Renaissance Club, or at least it was that here on Saturday. Wyndham Clark also is one that comes to mind here because he comes in on little form, and this doesn't seem like the type of golf that would welcome someone who is struggling between the ears at times. I mean, he's laid wake of destruction between here and his last top 10 finish. This looks like, barring something catastrophic, it will be a top 10 finish for Wyndham Clark, and he has a chance to do even better than that. How has he gotten himself to this place in such short order?
Well, first and foremost, he needs this, Joe. I mean, outside the top 70 in the FedEx Cup standings, would have to get probably a top 3 finish to make sure that he does put himself in a position to get to the FedEx Cup playoffs. But this has been a lot of the putter. At last check, he picked up about 7 strokes to the field this week with the flat stick. He's losing 2 on approach. It is a little bit unsustainable. Wyndham is a great putter. These are different surfaces. They're slower than what these guys are used to for most weeks, but I still think there is regression in order for Wyndham, so we're going to need to see him hit the ball much better and be effectively inaccurate off the tee with the driver if he wants to have a good Sunday and really accumulate a lot of FedEx Cup points.
All right, Rory, the obvious answer to this next question, but I'm always interested on where your mind goes beyond just the favorite in this instance. When you take a look at what you think these players are going to be asked on Sunday at the Renaissance Club, who of those atop the leaderboard is fit to push McIlroy and maybe put their hands on that trophy?
I would love to see Matt Fitzpatrick be that guy. It's not been a good year. It's been a down year for Matt, although the advanced metrics have been getting better each and every week. He's plugged nearly every single hole in his game, and the last 2 starts that he's had have been solid. And now we're getting him at a golf course and a type of golf, a style of golf that I think suits Fitzpatrick really well. He spoiled one coming in on 18. He had a chance on 17 to put a circle on the card, wasn't able to take advantage of that. I think there are a couple strokes out there for Fitzpatrick, a guy who should not be feeling differently in the moment. He's a major champion. He would be the one that I'm most interested in applying some upward pressure.
We will examine further in just a bit with Rick Gehman. Appreciate you, as always, getting us off the tee, pal. A look once again at your leaderboard. We know the arts and sciences will always be fully examined in a test of Lynx golf, but the man has his masters. Rory McIlroy tied atop the leaderboard, heading to the final day at the Renaissance Club. For more, we again stamp the well-decorated golfing passport of Trevor Immelman. Great to be with my friend always. Trev, what a day we had here on day 3 at the Scottish. Some great stuff, ball on the ground, I know gets you going, but when you take a look at what this question asked often is at Lynx Golf, how have you seen the test and that question develop over these 3 days? You've seen the test.
Well, you've got to have great imagination, Moose. I mean, the ball really is running. It's fiery and it's firm out here. You got that stiff breeze out of the east, which just whips across the golf course. And, you know, off the tee, real issue. You got to keep the ball out of these pot bunkers because you've got no chance. You're pretty much just playing out sideways if you hit into one of them. So the strategy off the tee really does play an important part. But if you find a way to keep it in the fairway, that's when you can create maximum spin and then have some control into these firm greens. So it was a joy, really so much fun for our whole crew to be over here this week and get a little taste of Lynx golf leading into the Open as well. So I'm looking forward to tomorrow. It was a fun day out there. The course absolutely showed some teeth, but if you played well, you got rewarded just like McIlroy was.
Yeah, when it gets a little shiny out there, angle of descent, the premium put on it even further. And who comes to mind better than Rory McIlroy when we're talking about throwing that ball up in the air and getting it to stop? A great round here, round of the day, a 4 under 66 for Roars. I don't know how broad you want to go here because it's been quite the story told over this season for McIlroy, but appears to have the joy back. What did you examine in that aspect?
Yeah, the full package just seems to be moving in the right direction again. He's had a couple weeks off. He seems to be relaxed, recovered, re-energized and refocused. And he's come here, he's got his coach Michael Bannon with him. The swing to me looks a little better than the last couple of events we saw him play. The transition of the swing in particular looks smoother and more calm, and that club is dropping down into a perfect slot. And then to back that up as well, he's really putting well. He's 5th in putting after 3 rounds. And ordinarily, if Rory McIlroy putts well, he's extremely hard to beat. He's going to be the favorite out there tomorrow. I mean, the fans have just been coming out in droves to see the Grand Slam winner, which is well deserved. And they'll be right behind him tomorrow. So it'll be interesting with the 2 Americans playing with him in the final group, you know, how they handle that atmosphere. He's for sure going to be the favorite going into this final round.
The world number 2 looking for his 4th victory of this season. As for the world number 1, a thought perhaps here on Scottie Scheffler, because we were looking for something this week to tell us what we might get next week at the Open Championship, our final major of the season. Do you still sense a man that's maybe not opening his heart to all that Lynx golf asks? We're fist-pumping lip-outs, we're getting some emotion that we don't often see, and we're getting it maybe at the wrong times. What have you made of the week for Scottie thus far?
Look, he seems a little frustrated, but absolutely not anything to panic about, for sure. I'm not concerned about his chances at all going into the Open. You know, he's still really, in a lot of ways, is still trying to come to grips with Lynx golf. But as I've watched him on the range and throughout the course of the last few days, the game still seems there. Just needs to tidy up the driver off the tee today. Didn't really give himself many opportunities, just the 5 fairways. And like we touched on earlier, it's very hard to be aggressive and attack when you're constantly coming out of these pot bunkers or the rough. So I think he'll probably finish off with a nice strong round tomorrow, work his way into the top 10 at the very least, like we see all the time. The last 9 tournaments he's played, 8th is his worst finish, which just goes to show how incredibly good Scottie Scheffler is. I'm not worried about him at all, Moose, so you can take it easy on that call. He's going to be just fine.
Well, who am I to stand between my man and such a sunset? Trevor Immelman, we appreciate you stopping by. We'll talk to you when it's all done on Sunday. And don't forget, Sunday's coverage coming your way, 12 Eastern time on CBS and streaming on Paramount+. A minor amendment to your tee time, so take a look at when your favorites are going off. They're going off 1 and 10 in groups of 3 to avoid some late settling fog in Scotland. It's going to be a thriller Sunday on CBS.
You seem a little lighter, and it might be because of the haircut. Could you just take the hat for us off? What happened there, Rory?
You know, I'm getting a little gray, as everyone probably knows, and I stupidly thought that by going shorter, it would take the grays out. And if anything, I think it makes me look more gray. So, but it'll grow back. That's the good thing. It'll be perfect length for the Ryder Cup in September.
It could be the good luck haircut, depending on what happens here tomorrow.
Who knows?
Thanks for joining us.
Hey, a couple guys in the mid-30s talking golf. The battle against gray is a real thing. The battle against this field is another thing for Rory McIlroy. He seems to be lighter, if I could steal the word there from Amanda Balionis, not just in weight or in haircut, but in what he's carrying around the golf course right now. Said, got back around family and friends, put the clubs down for about 10 days. How do you think that served McIlroy in this third round?
Oh, well, firstly, Joe, he's never been more relatable than talking about the battle against Grays, so I'm all in on that. But the thing is, I mean, it's absolutely true. Rory wears his emotions on his sleeve. I think one of his biggest curses is that he's very open and honest with us and with the media and in these conversations. It doesn't always go his way, but I think he does really relish the fact that he's back in the UK. He has this week, which is an event that's important, but it is going to be next week, which is a home game. He described it as that at Royal Portrush. And for somebody who has just ascended the top of golf and his professional sport, his professional life, looking for that motivation again and looking for a reason to get excited and grind again. Well, if you can't get excited, if you can't get locked in for the Scottish Open and the Open at Portrush, you have no chance. And I think we're seeing that from Rory McIlroy, who is doing it both on and off the golf course right now. I'm quite bullish about the way this thing ends for him and the way next week goes.
Yeah, look, once again here at the scorecard, 5 birdies to just a lone bogey there at the par 4 7th. And I guess it's all about framing. We can frame this a multitude of ways, but I'm looking at an all-time great in Rory McIlroy, who grew up playing this style of golf, sharing that final grouping with, yes, Wyndham Clark, but also the man he's sharing the lead with right now, and Chris Gotterup, who claims to have played very little links golf in his entire life. What is the path to victory for Gotterup? How does he keep this thing close and then strike on opportunity Sunday?
I think the good news, or at least if I was on Gotterup's team, I would frame it as, hey, you're just freewheeling it around there. Everybody's going to worry about Rory. Just go out and do your thing. I think the pathway on the golf course, though, is effectively wild. You know, he has hit less than 45% of his fairways this week, and that's something that is routine for him, but he moves it a lot farther than everybody else on tour. And as long as he can avoid those pop bunkers, we saw him have to play sideways at one point in the third round, it's not really a big deal where you hit it off the tee. And then I think his ability to get off to a good start will be critical come Sunday. You know, he was a slow mover out of the gates on Saturday, was able to kind of get things right by the time that he made the turn. I think we need to see a little bit earlier success, maybe take advantage of the par 5 third, open the seal of birdies early in this round and just freewheel yourself around the Renaissance Club and see what happens.
You know, as links golf goes, it's not always sunshine and rainbows when we address the lead pack. That is often what it feels like, but even when the sun shines, there are issues, and those issues arose for Ludvig Aberg, certainly. I believe touched 11 under at one point, but unable to golf his ball from there. It did get one back coming home, but over a 3-hole stretch gives back 5 shots, including a triple bogey. When you look at Ludvig and the importance of having high leverage reps, those in the moment chance to win it type reps, what do you say about today and how big of an opportunity squandered is this?
I think today alone is not a big deal. I think then combining it with a lot of what we've seen this year just changes the way that I perceive Ludi here. So, it's been a weird year. He's got a win. He's got a top 10 at the Masters, but there's been a lot of poor play throughout. This is something that we've seen in 2025 where he's just been a little bit more inconsistent. And that stretch of golf, bogey, triple, bogey, is like almost unfathomable for someone who is as good of a professional golfer as Ludvig is. So I think what we're learning this year is that he is a little bit more wild, a little bit more volatile. It's not a bad thing. It's just different than what we thought entering this campaign. And there's a lot of guys who can get away with that. There's a lot of guys that would prefer that because he has such a high ceiling, Joe. But I think we have to maybe pump the brakes a little bit on all the major championships that we've already crowned for Ludvig. He's gonna have an awesome career, but let's let it play out a little bit.
Yeah, still gotta update some of the software on the AI. He is human, that is for sure, and made some human mistakes here on Saturday at the Scottish, but still hitting him with a Ludi. So we know Rick's still feeling good about him.
Yeah,
we got to keep the guy close. We don't know how close it'll be on Sunday, but it should be a show coming up on CBS and streaming on Paramount Plus. Let's do a little heart says, head says, pocket says. Rory McIlroy, the obvious betting favorite here. How do you want to approach it all?
Yeah, so head says Rory McIlroy, heart says Rory McIlroy. I'm going to lump those two together. I think that Rory's been kind of cast away a little bit since the Masters victory unfairly. I think it would be cool to see him win this golf tournament and then go to Portrush fresh off a victory. I also think he's going to win. Picked up nearly 3 strokes on approach in the 3rd round. He's putting the lights out. I love all of that. My wallet, the money bags would prefer a Matt Fitzpatrick victory. I think it is a reasonable solution. He's a golfer who has been really playing well the last couple of weeks. He also thrives in Lynx style golf. So either way, Joe, I think we're going to get a really strong ending here, especially with the way some of these closing holes at the Renaissance Club have played. This is going to be a great finish, and I'm not even going to call it an appetizer because that's not going to do it to justice. This is an entree, and then we're going to get another entree next week at the Open.
Hey, wherever they take this game, there are a few better in it than our guy Rick Gehman. Rick, we appreciate the insight as always.
Thank you, miss.
And you want more Rick Gehman? I'm not going to ask you if you do. You know you do. Scan the QR code right there and get involved with the Early Wedge 5 times a week. Our team takes you under the ropes and into the action with the latest news and notes and winning wagers, we promise as well. Download, subscribe, and enjoy the Early Wedge. And final round coverage coming your way on CBS and streaming on Paramount Plus from the picturesque Renaissance Club in North Berwick. Final round action beginning 12 Eastern on CBS and streaming on Paramount Plus.